Right, Glock's done a 1:28, but he's 15 seconds clear of them. So Glock can tiptoe around the last lap and get the job done. Hamilton then has got to have a major attack on Vettel. Has he got the pace to do that?
And of course Vettel is powered by the Ferrari engine, so he is highly motivated. And you can see that the back of Vettel's car is swirling away. Hamilton just doesn't seem to have the pace when it matters. He needs 5th or better to win the World Championship. He is currently 6th, and he runs one up late on the braking. He just needs now some luck to intervene. I said at the beginning it would come down to luck, and that's exactly what's happened. He had it all under control in the dry conditions, and in these conditions it's all about these last few corners now. We're expecting Massa any time now. He comes through to claim his 6th victory of the season. He has done everything he needed to do, and we wait now to find out who will be the world champion of 2008. Can Hamilton do anything? Can he run it up the inside of Vettel? Only a few corners to go now, and desperation starts to creep in for Lewis Hamilton.
Raikkonen's 3rd, and is that Glock? Is that Glock going slowly?
It is, it's Glock! Oh my goodness me! Hamilton's back in position again. 100,000 local hearts sink in the grandstands. It's handed the place back to Hamilton. He comes through, and if I'm absolutely right, I'm sure that he is going to claim 5th place, which is all he needs to do to become the 2008 Formula One World Champion, Lewis Hamilton. And you will... Well, the Ferrari boys are celebrating.
They both think they've won, but Ferrari
are wrong. They're absolutely wrong. Hamilton's finished 5th, and Lewis, the father, has just realised that he celebrated a little bit too early. And Nicole Scherzinger, the girlfriend of Lewis Hamilton, hugs Aki Hintsa, his head doctor. You will never see a more dramatic conclusion to any motor race, let alone a Grand Prix, than that. And the result of it all is that in the most harem-squarem way possible, he doesn't make it easy for himself, does he? Lewis Hamilton is the world champion.
Unbelievable.
In 2008, Lewis Hamilton made news all over the world with his championship title-winning fight over Felipe Massa at that year's finale in Brazil, winning the Formula One world title by a margin of 1 single point. It was at that time Hamilton reached the peak to become one of Formula One's most respectable and recognizable world champions in its history, joining Alain Prost, Juan Manuel Fangio, Jim Clark, his idol Ayrton Senna, and many others. His 2008 stats are this: 5 wins, 10 podium finishes, 7 poles, scored 98 points in total, led 294 laps, with an average start of 3.9 and an average finish of 5.2. His rookie year stats from the year prior looked like this: 4 wins, 12 podium finishes, 6 poles, scored 109 points, led 321 laps, having an average start of 2.6, along with an average finish rate of 3.9, and as we all know, came very close to winning the title, but lost out by, ironically, 1 point. So heading into season 09, the last 2 years for Hamilton was nothing but success, despite a few hiccups along the way. Having to place the championship-winning MP4 23 in a museum, it was time to move on to the next McLaren project, which was the MP4 24, that was set to run the entirety of the 2009 season, with obviously Hamilton and Heikki Kovalainen at the helm.
The regulations for 2009 are completely changed, so therefore what that means is that the complete design of the car, everyone starts from scratch. So every team has no idea what other teams are doing, what other teams' cars will look like. You know, some people have taken the front wing or the horns of our car, and the BMW had that. And so no one has any of these things and can take it and try it and test it. It all starts from scratch, so everyone's just going to do the best job they can. And when we get to the first race, we'll see who's done the best job. And I feel very confident we've done a fantastic job.
I have a much better starting point to the season in terms of knowing the team and how everything works and how to get the best out of the the whole group of people. And I think that's really the priority at the moment, you know, to get the testing going and then preparing for the first race. Obviously, the victory in Hungary last year was a highlight, so there's no question that I'd like to get a few more of those, but better not to get too much ahead of the things and just keep the focus now at the start of the season.
Martin Whitmarsh had shoes to fill, as this would be his first year as team principal, replacing Ron Dennis. In testing, the MP424 didn't live up to its anticipated and predicted standards. In the timesheets, Lewis Hamilton was well off the pace compared to other opponents. Hamilton told Whitmarsh that the car was lacking aerodynamic efficiency. Kovalainen and test driver Pedro Della Rosa were experiencing the same thing. Overwhelmed by the car's lack of pace and the typical politics they had to cope and agree with to terms with the FIA, season 2009 was going to be a rocky road. And it showed. The season opener, taking place in Melbourne where Hamilton won a year ago, both drivers got off to a bad start. Heikki Kovalainen, who set the fastest lap time also 1 year prior, crashed out just less than 10 seconds at the very start. Meanwhile, Hamilton was on a charge, getting the most out of the underperforming car, looking to win the Australian Grand Prix for the second year in a row. He would finish on the podium in third. That would be short-lived. Following further investigations on the controversy in regards with Hamilton and Jarno Trulli passing each other during the caution period. At first, Trulli was disqualified, giving up his third place to Lewis Hamilton, who originally came home fourth behind the Italian. Prior to the Malaysian Grand Prix, more on the controversy was being analyzed, and in the end, the FIA told the media that it was Hamilton getting the boot. Therefore, the defending world champion kicked off his 2009 campaign with a disqualification.
We were requested by the stewards, and whilst waiting for the stewards, I was instructed and misled by my team manager to withhold information, and that's what I did. And sincerely apologize to the stewards for wasting their time and for making them look silly. But just really, I'm very, very sorry for the situation, for my team, for Dave, because he's been a good member of the team for many years. And whilst that I don't think it was his intention, or he's a good guy. And I went into the meeting. I had no intention of, I just wanted to tell the story, to say what happened, and I was misled, and it was that's the way it went. And I would like to say a big sorry to all my fans who have believed in me, who have supported me for years, who I've showed you I am for the past 3 years. It's who I am. I'm not a liar. I'm not a dishonest person. I'm a team player, and every time I've been informed to do something, I've done it. And this time I realized that it was a huge mistake, and I'm learning from it. It's taken a huge toll on me. I apologize for you guys. I didn't speak to you guys yesterday, but I mean, it was a lot to take in and a lot to deal with. And so I'm here to apologize to everyone, and just assure you wouldn't happen again.
Already, it was a disastrous start for the champ and Team McLaren as a whole. Unfortunately, it gets worse, especially for Kovalainen, beaching his car later on in the Malaysian Grand Prix on the opening lap. This race so happens to be one of the shortest races in Formula One history, given that rainfall had come to effect, and as it showed no signs of stopping, the Grand Prix was called off at the midway point and Jenson Button was declared the winner. But what about Lewis Hamilton? Well, he stayed out of trouble and finished in 7th to score 2 points as a result. It wasn't what the Englishman had hoped to start off the new year as reigning world champion, but then again 2 races were in and anything can still happen. Returning to Shanghai, where Hamilton had his fortunes and misfortunes the last 2 seasons, would be rather unpredictable given the rainfall rolled around once more. Sebastian Vettel, now in a Red Bull, scored his 2nd career pole and would go on to win the race. His championship rival, Jenson Button, finished on the podium with him, and Sebastian's teammate Mark Webber finished in 2nd. Hamilton would finish P6, 1 spot behind his teammate Kovalainen. At least Kovalainen actually managed to finish a race this time. Now we shift gears to the Bahrain desert. Hamilton started 5th and would go on to finish 4th. The next race in Spain, Hamilton's McLaren MP424 wasn't the best in the field. With that said, he started 14th only to finish 9th, 1 lap down. Coming into the Monaco Principality, Hamilton finished on the podium in both of his last 2 starts on the Monaco streets, finishing 2nd in 2007 and scoring the dub in 2008. 2009, you would think this is the circuit where he makes a resurgence and rebounds. Nope. To make matters worse, a gearbox change really did him in, and went from 16th to the tail end of the grid in 20th, dead last. Although he would make moves and pounce while others in front of him were piled under pressure. It wasn't enough to finish in the points, therefore ranking P12 in the end, once again 1 lap down. Then in Turkey, where he finished runner-up a year prior, he couldn't get it together in Istanbul Park either, where he qualified 16th on the grid, ranking P13 on race day. During the race, Hamilton had things to say.
It's embarrassing. I can't even keep up with the frickin' Renner in front of me. My tyres have gone off. I'm heavier than a frickin' boat. Guys, you need to be in a new car. We need a new car to be able to win these races.
The next 2 races in Silverstone and Nürburgring saw Hamilton once again finish in the mid-pack. Silverstone was 16th, and in Germany it was P18. Silverstone had its moments, being forced off the track by Fernando Alonso, almost getting taken out, and while Hamilton was pushing, he pushed way too hard on some occasions. In Germany, Hamilton's race was over right from the start when Mark Webber made slight contact with his right rear tire, giving Lewis a puncture. And right after that, Hamilton couldn't recover and couldn't salvage a comeback. 9 races in, 0 laps led, 0 podiums, 0 poles, 0 fastest laps, 9 points, and 11th place in the standings. Where did it all go wrong? Heikki Kovalainen wasn't doing all that good either. 9 races in, 0 laps led, and the same applies with pole positions, podiums, and fast laps. Furthermore, 5 DNFs, 5 points, and 13th in the championship standings at the expense of the Finnish driver. Chances for a 2nd consecutive world title for our main protagonist are out the window, giving the championship chance to 3 different drivers who were more consistent, and those are Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello, in which both of them are racing for Brawn GP, and there was also Sebastian Vettel in his Red Bull. Rewind a couple of years, and all three of them were out of the title picture, and Lewis Hamilton was in the title fight, and lapping them on some occasions. This time around, they're the ones lapping him. How the tables turn. Round 10 in the championship took place at the Hungaroring, where McLaren had shown the speed and results they needed in the previous few years. Pedro de la Rosa getting his first and only podium driving for McLaren come to mind. Not to mention, Hamilton and even Kovalainen had their taste of victory in the previous 2 seasons. Both drivers started the Hungarian Grand Prix in the top 10, but it was Hamilton with the upper hand, considering a 4th place qualifying run, and with Kerr's assistance, he was able to get off to a cracking start. Fernando Alonso won the pole and led the first 11 laps. It looked as if Alonso too would finally get a Grand Prix victory in 2009, let alone score his first podium of the year. That would be cut short due to one of his crew members not securing the right front arm properly, and just a lap or 2 later, the tire came right off, ending Alonso's chance at a victory. Not to mention his fuel pump was faulty, so his race was somewhat over regardless. Even so, this is exactly what Hamilton needed. Having led 58 of the 70 laps, Lewis was back on track. Finally, the first win since China almost a year ago, Hamilton gets his first podium and first win of the season.
Great job, guys! Fantastic! Fantastic! The car was so nice to drive. And you guys have worked so hard for this, and I'm so glad that we could do it this weekend. So proud of you guys. Thank you.
Heikki Kovalainen was the winner in Hungary last time out, and he too couldn't hold back a smile after finishing 5th and even led a lap. It seemed like McLaren were back to their consistent ways again, heading into the midway point of 2009. And indeed, both Hamilton and Kovalainen started on the front row in the next race taking place in Valencia, making it a McLaren front row lockout, something that was rare during the 2009 season. What wasn't rare was Hamilton getting the most out of the car, and that's what he did, having led the most laps. Kovalainen was up front as well, and just like in Budapest, he led just 1 lap the whole race. In the closing stages, both drivers couldn't catch Rubens Barrichello, as the Brazilian finally sealed his first win of 2009 in the bag, the first since his Ferrari days 5 years ago. Hamilton crossed the line in P2, and Kovalainen was P4, behind Kimi Räikkönen. Once again, McLaren showed they were back and contend for more podiums and more race wins. Hamilton could have likely won the Grand Prix of Europe had the crew members been ready with a new set of tires during one of the pit stops. Because they weren't ready, it cost them crucial time, and from there, Barrichello took complete control and didn't look back. Unfortunately, bad luck struck McLaren once more at the Belgium Grand Prix.
Lewis wasn't quick off the start and had it all to do. He avoided Barrichello, but he took a hit from Nakajima and Buemi into La Source. With debris flying everywhere and slower cars ahead, he failed to make the progress he needed. Barrichello flew by, and then a whack from the Toro Rosso of Alguersuari ensured it was game over.
Less than 45 seconds at the start phase, and a 4-car wreck ensued. Lewis Hamilton was among those involved. Hickey was able to at least give the team a good result, finishing 6th and earning 3 points in the championship. With a little bit of luck, Kovalainen moved up a couple of places in the standings, that being P10. Hamilton, on the other hand, considering he crashed out, he dropped back from 6th to 7th in the points. And real quick, race winner Kimi Raikkonen sealed his 4th win in the Belgian Grand Prix in the Ferrari F60, which had been crap all throughout the year. And with this win, it was a long time coming for the car. And with Kerr's assistance, Raikkonen was able to create a 1-second gap between himself and Giancarlo Fisichella to claim victory. Despite the win, Raikkonen and Ferrari in general also had a bad 2009 season, but that's a story for another time. Shifting gears to Monza, Italy, where Lewis Hamilton was the fastest of the fast at the fastest circuit on the calendar to claim pole number 2 in 2009. Desperate for that second win of the year, Hamilton pushed it to the ultimate maximum, which would prove to be too much for the car to handle. Attacks the exit curbs, lost traction, and pounds the barrier, and is out of the race. And this happened on the last lap too. Fortunately, Kovalainen managed to keep it clean and score points for the team with a 6th place run and receiving 3 more championship points. The Singapore Grand Prix racing at night went well without a hitch, particularly at Hamilton's expense. Starting the race from pole, he dominated the majority of the Grand Prix and wheeled his way to a victory under the lights. He was number 1, and on that night, number 1 was indeed the magic number. Upon Formula One returning to Suzuka, Lewis Hamilton had Ayrton Senna vibes.
It's going to be quite emotional because I've always wanted to drive here, and yesterday I was on the track and there was a point where I remember Ayrton Senna was crashing with Prost, and it's just it's going to be very emotional for me. The first lap, I can't wait to get out there.
He kept it clean during the Japanese Grand Prix and wheeled his McLaren MP424 to the podium, ranking in 3rd after starting in 3rd. He and many others on the grid just couldn't catch Sebastian Vettel, who led every single lap from pole. In Brazil, Hamilton failed to qualify in the top 10s and therefore was 17th fastest on the timesheets. But it was on race day he picked up the pieces to once again find himself on the podium in 3rd place. Because of it, he passed Kimi Raikkonen in the championship standings, up into 5th. The inauguration of the Grand Prix of Abu Dhabi was next, where it played host to the final round in the 2009 World Championship. Lewis Hamilton was keen to have one more good run in the crappy MP424 race car, and in qualifying, he secured pole position. Come race day though, he led for the first 16 laps and soon retired following brake problems. Incredibly, it was the first mechanical retirement of Hamilton's career. But nevertheless, Hamilton and the McLaren team were surely very glad when their atrocious 2009 season came to an end right then and there. With the season booked in history, Lewis Hamilton's stats are this: 2 wins, 5 podium finishes, 4 poles, scored 49 points, ranking 5th in the final standings, leading 182 laps, along with it an average start of 9.3 and an average finish of 9.7, with 4 DNFs coming along with it, not to mention 0 fastest laps. Putting the MP424 in a museum, it was time to move on and improve. Which, following season 2010, the MP425 was a lot better in terms of car performance. with a cheeky innovation that gave McLaren somewhat an advantage over its rivals. Once again, that's a story for another day in regards with McLaren's controversial F-duct system. Recapping Lewis Hamilton's 2009 season to put this video to its conclusion, you could say that season 2009 for Lewis was a championship hangover to say the least. From a championship in 2008 to a slump the following year. It literally took him 10 races to finally taste victory lane champagne. Furthermore, there were mistakes that cost Hamilton potential race wins. Valencia and Monza come to mind. If Hamilton won at those two places, he could have had 4 wins and an extra podium if that was to happen. But in reality, it didn't happen. And there you have it, Lewis Hamilton's bad 2009 season's video. Although this wouldn't be the only bad season of his Formula 1 career, as 2011 also had its fair share of awful moments to forget, particularly with run-ins with Felipe Massa. And yes, more on that for a later video in the future. But for now, this is it, and all I can tell you. So, I, Turn4 Productions, signing off the mic as always, and until next time and further notice, peace out, stay safe, and have a good one.